What do you think paddle can learn from both tennis and pickleball here in the States?
So we have some amazing aspects of paddle that already exist and have existed for a long time. So we have a very clear global governing structure
Okay.
of the global governing body, FIP. We are one of 100 member nations of FIP, and we compete internationally against other countries. It's one of the most fantastic aspects of paddle, and it's really strong. We can learn from USA Pickleball and the USTA. Those are much bigger organizations right now. We're still quite small, and we have an opportunity to form USA Padel in the way that best serves the country as best as possible to help them grow the sport. I think for me, I want to use my experience of 20 plus years to create the best possible and the best possible strategic vision to help grow the sport and be relevant so that people know paddle and want to play paddle.
Today, I'm joined by Scott Colebourne, Executive Director and CEO of USA Padel, the national governing body for paddle in the United States. Scott has spent more than 20 years across the racket sports industry, including previously leading one of the largest racket management networks in the country. Today, he sits at the center of a very different challenge, helping build the infrastructure, pathways, and standards around American paddle while the sport itself is still taking shape. Scott, welcome to the show. Take two. happy, happy. What are we at? It's Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. Is it a good start to the week there in Vermont?
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Great to be here. It's a great start of the week. Always good to chat with you, see your smiling face, and just love to catch up and talk about paddle.
You and me both, my friend. Well, before we get it kicked off, how do you feel about a few rapid fire questions to get us warmed up?
Sure, love it.
All right, let's go. Number one, favorite shot.
Por tres. Kick overhead, bounce it out of the court, topspin off the wall. It's kind of fun when it works.
Yes, can never go wrong with the portraits. Playing or coaching?
Playing, definitely. I spent too many years coaching on the court. Just love to get out there and play and enjoy, and just worry about my own game, not trying to coach someone else, and just enjoy having fun playing.
Yeah, no doubt. Singles or doubles?
Doubles for sure. I played singles once. It was particularly painful. I've never played singles on a singles court, so that might be different. But at the moment, definitely
Definitely
doubles.
doubles, yeah. Build from scratch or improve what's already there?
I mean, there's so few things that are really built from scratch these days. We're always iterating on someone else before us, whether it's my own game, a product, a business, whatever. So I would say improve what's already there.
That's so well said. That's so true. And then last but not least, coffee or tea?
Coffee,
Okay.
and a little bit crazy about this one, Bryant, but I pour my espresso the night before. So when I wake up at 4 o'clock, it's ready to go. Just put some boiling hot water on it, and I'm good to go.
That is a truist right there. That is I don't I may have to adopt that, but that's what type of machine do you have? Like an espresso or
I got a slightly better than espresso. I got like a proper coffee
proper
machine with
coffee
the,
machine? Let's
grinds
go.
and
Yes.
does it all for
Ignore
me.
my
But
question. Yes, that's you do
yeah,
it the
I
right way.
mean,
You do it the right way.
when you're up at 4, I mean, I'd prefer it to be poured fresh, but when you're up at 4 a.m., you don't want to wake the rest of the house up. So you make it the night before, and that's it.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, let's get this kicked off, my friend. So, I'd love to start just like with your journey. And the breadth and depth of your experience in the racket sport world is so vast. And I hope that we, you know, go even beyond the surface. I know we'll probably barely scratch the surface of what that all entails in just like the next 45 minutes to an hour. But we're gonna do our best, and I'm gonna do my best to pull that out, for the viewers today. What like originally pulled you into the racket sports industry from the very start?
What pulled me into racket sports from the very start,
Yeah.
it was not an intentional thought. I grew up in New Zealand, and I loved playing all sports. Across the street from me, there was a tennis club. It had a bunch of sheep wandering on the grass. I would walk across the street on a Saturday afternoon and play tennis at the tennis club on the grass courts. And that was how I got started playing tennis. At school, elementary school in New Zealand, we played this game called paddle tennis. that was a little bit like paddle, but without the walls. We used a bat, like a paddle, and just started playing as a kid and loved it and loved, competing hard and the feeling of responsibility that comes with, in an individual sport. And that was how my journey got started.
That's so cool. So, like, I mean, and that's so different because that's the unheard of here in the US. What was that called again? What type of tennis? The
It was called patter, so PABDER, paddle
paddle
tennis.
tennis, yeah.
It's if I describe it, it's like a pickleball sized court,
Okay.
but we played with tennis rules and like a wooden bat that was kind of similar to a paddle racket, but wooden.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's like all these racket sports have their own unique features that are fun, that are interesting, that are exciting. And we played it lots as kids growing up in New Zealand at elementary school.
So cool. Well, let's go back to like I mean, just starting in New Zealand. So, what age were you when that began? How old were you, Scott, for the viewers?
I remember I got a tennis racket for Christmas, and I must have been 9 or 10, and I played some under 10 tournaments. I remember playing under 10 tournaments. Elementary school in New Zealand, paddle tennis was probably like 8, 9, 10. So yeah, pretty young when I started. It was definitely not like a child prodigy starting at age 3 or 4. It was typical New Zealand, childhood. You play every sport you can in whatever season it is. You never focus on one sport purely. You play whatever's in season.
Sure.
And it was a great childhood.
Wow. No, I mean, well, 9, 10. I mean, so yeah, no, you you clearly got into the world of racket sports, from a young age, and then it just continued to um, develop over time, and clearly has led you to where you are today. But I really want, before we get there, I would love to kind of just speak to part of your experience at the Cliff Drysdale Management. I mean, you were there for 15, 20 years over a span. Is that right?
Yeah,
Is
that's
that right?
correct. So, growing up in Growing up in New Zealand, I loved America. I had a set of encyclopedias that featured the USA, and I wanted to live in the USA and experience the American dream. And I played a little bit of college tennis, but that was not an amazing experience. I moved back to New Zealand after college, came back to the USA, and had some different coaching tennis jobs. Eventually, led to a job with Cliff Drysdale Management. When I started there, I was a camp counselor and pretty much performed every role in the company on the club operations and club coaching side. So,
Wow.
camp counselor, head professional, tennis professional, director of tennis, director of rackets, and eventually got into management and operations. And when I left about 3 years ago, we had 65 clubs in 14 countries, majority of them tennis management locations, but also some paddle locations and some pickleball locations. So, an amazing time with that company and a lot of experience operating and managing clubs and coaching myself and also overseeing
Well, I can
coaches.
only imagine. I mean, and wearing so many different hats, and that's truly, over that span, over a decade, um, you clearly the exposure you got, what you learned, the value and everything you provided to them. I can only imagine how much that was. I'd love to know, what did you glean from those years and that experience that creates a fantastic experience for racket sports? Like, what's the top thing that jumps to mind from that era?
Sure. Yeah. For, for me, the most important thing in creating an amazing racket is the people that are delivering that experience.
Yep.
I often make the analogy in relation to golf, whereas in golf, the course is the product. You have Pebble Beach, you have the links, you have the PGA, these different courses, they are the product. In racket sports and paddle specifically, the people are the product. The court is the same, the dimensions are the same. Yes, there's different quality courts, panoramic, semi-panoramic, different types of turf, but ultimately the differentiator is the people that you're with, whether or not that is on the court, coaching, the people you're playing with, the people managing the club, creating the community. So for me, the most important thing I've learned in my career is investing in the people, and you hope to recruit and then hire and then train and support great people to work alongside you in whatever project or endeavor it is. Because ultimately you can only be as successful as the people that you're with. and the people delivering that experience are the most important thing.
That is so that's, it makes sense. It makes I mean, I already had so much appreciation for what your role is, and I'm only gonna continue to learn more throughout this conversation, but all the more, how much more important it really is. I mean, as you're trying to grow this game, at this time, this intersection of where we're at within racket sports and paddle and growing globally and specifically here in the US, and to grow it at the grassroots level, the amount of time, energy, and attention to build it on a personal level, I can't imagine. I mean, I would need 10 cups of then there's not enough caffeine in the world that will give me the energy to pour in because that is like it's just a self-giving constantly. You have to pour into others, I would imagine. Um, so just crazy respect
Yeah.
for you, and we haven't even gotten there yet because of, I know where you sit. So and that makes sense with the golf, like the course, I guess, is the product, but for the racket sport, it is the people. Before we move on, what ultimately, Scott, made you say yes then to USA Paddle? Um,
Yeah. So I first came across paddle in 2019, the PGA show. There was a paddle exhibition happening. AFP Courts was distributing courts at the time, and I thought it was an amazing opportunity to learn about paddle. So 2019, first discovered paddle. We put in some paddle courts in Key Biscayne with Cliff Drysdale Management, and really discovered the sport there myself. Played it a lot more. Became first exposed and introduced to the paddle community in Miami and Key Biscayne, and so many great people there. I was invited to join the board of, at the time, USPA, now USA Padel, in 2021. Was fortunate enough to serve on the board in a volunteer position for 2 years, and was just struck by how, passionate the people in the paddle community are. So many people, in the 2000, in the 90s, 2000, 2010,
can we stay there for 1
volunteering
second?
basically.
Can we stay there for 1
Yeah,
second?
sure.
What do you think I mean, selfishly for myself, I just really want to hear from you, and I know the viewers will appreciate it as well. We hear it all the time, the passion, why people are so passionate about this game, and we've heard it in the pickleball world too, which I know you have exposure to and you know all too well as well. But what does that look like, and why do you think that's the case? The passion for
Sure.
the game.
One reason I think the passion in the paddle community is so strong is that, to me, paddle is the world's most social sport. Without a doubt, the world's most social sport. The proximity of four people inside the glass. You feel connected with people. It breaks down barriers. Doesn't matter what your background, your socioeconomic status, your financial status. You're inside this small area with a partner battling against two people. And afterwards, you can hang out and chat, and it's a great leveler. So I think the physical environment is so important to paddle.
Yeah.
We have an amazing Latino influence in the USA and in paddle, which I celebrate and I think is amazing. Like, as a culture, just fun and friendly and laughter and intensity. And I think a lot of that comes out into paddle. And people just love the sport. It's fun to play, it's easy to play, and it all becomes a point of passion. And for those early pioneers in paddle in the 90s and 2000s, 2010s in the USA, definitely a passion product, and they were hustling and doing everything to grow the sport. But it's such a great community.
Well said. I couldn't agree more. The proximity, it really is. And I didn't even just as you were sharing that, I guess the being enclosed does play a part as well. It's just that like you're in it together type of feeling. And it doesn't matter who you are. Like it is it everything is once you enter that, you know, those doors or the gate or whatever, it's like it's just a different world. Um so
I
that's
think that the physical infrastructure is underestimated by people, and we've actually done a statistical analysis of paddle, tennis, and pickleball.
okay.
And paddle has the most hits per minute out of all of the sports, and we've analyzed hours of footage from streaming companies between paddle, pickleball, and tennis.
Oh,
And
that's
paddle has the most
phenomenal.
hits.
Wow.
Tennis is not even close. Not even
To
close.
yeah.
Pickleball is a little bit closer,
Yep.
but in paddle, the rallies go so much longer. The ball comes back to you. Now, how many people get tired of tennis or pickleball because you're chasing the ball to go and pick it up? Like, the ball flies off the court 7 and you're on court 1 and you've got to walk all the way and get there. The glass, it doesn't happen. It comes back to you. So paddle has the most hits per minute. We've done the statistical analysis, and I think that's a big factor in it. You're hitting the ball more, which is what people love.
Oh, well, without a doubt, and it's what way more physical than I think most people realize, especially if you haven't actually stepped on a court before. Well, almost, I mean, I know tennis would be definitely in the last, but pickleball, I guess, because it is the time between each shot is much less because paddle is so much quicker than pickleball. Um, but I thought I would imagine that was that stat run at the pro level, amateur level? Because pro pickleball, those points are forever, with the dinking. Um, I guess premier paddle points are long too, though. What,
Yeah, I think it's a good point, Brian. So the statistical analysis was done through Save My Play, who have streaming cameras on tennis, pickleball, and paddle at the club level all around the USA. So that was
Okay.
how we got the numbers using their data. I think part of it is that at the amateur level of pickleball, points can go quite quickly. A five-fight and pickleball, boom, 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 boom. But
Mhm.
then you go and pick up the ball, you walk, you get it, you stop, you pause, you go again. Whereas in paddle, the ball
Exactly.
comes back quicker and you have
It's
more
go.
points.
And it's go. It's go. It's
Yeah.
go. It's go. Wow. That's a cool stat. Oh man, that is we're clipping that one for sure. Um so let's go to kind of like talk about the trifecta a little bit. Like you know pickleball, paddle, tennis, the span of 20 years. Like what do you see differently today than what you did, when you first got into it? And I'll just start there. Yeah.
For me, I never grew up saying I want to work in racket sports. It was
Yeah.
a natural progression. Growing up in New Zealand, you coach when you turn 12, 13, 14, you're coaching the younger children at the club and you're getting coached yourself by the older coaches. And it was a real familial family kind of setup in New Zealand growing up in tennis. And then coaching proved a vehicle for me to move to the USA, to get sponsored for a visa, become a proud USA citizen. So I never kind of grew up saying I want to work in racket sports. It was a natural progression. And then when I went through some crossroads in my life of, what do I want to do professionally? And I analyze the things. Okay, I like being around people. I like being outside. I like being where the good weather exists. Working in an office was never really an option. And now to be in a position where I can combine my love of paddle and racket sports on the business side of it and work with great people, for me, it's a dream job.
No brainer. That's amazing. It truly is. We will be having many conversations. You send me the invoice for your mentorship, Scott. um, I truly admire it. So, what do you think paddle can learn from both tennis and pickleball here in the states?
That's a good question. What can paddle learn from tennis
Yeah.
and pickleball? Yeah, so here in the USA, so we have some amazing aspects of paddle that already exist and have existed for a long time. So we have a very clear global governing structure
Okay.
of the global governing body, FIP. We are one of 100 member nations of FIP, and we compete internationally against other countries. I think it's one of the most fantastic aspects of paddle, and it's really strong. Um, I think that we can learn from USA Pickleball and the USTA. Those are much bigger organizations right now. And even though USA Paddle has been around since the mid 90s, we're 30 plus years now, as an organization, we're still quite small and we have an opportunity to form USA Paddle in the way that best serves the country.
Yeah.
So for me, what does that mean? It means we need to look after anybody who wants to play paddle in the USA, not just a USA Paddle member. We need to look after every club in the USA as best as possible to help them grow the sport, to get more players in. So, I'm not going to point out mistakes from other federations, but I think for me, I want to use my experience of, 20 plus years to create the best possible structure of USA Paddle, the best possible governance, and the best possible strategic vision to help grow the sport and be relevant so that people know paddle and want to play paddle.
I love that, and we're gonna get into that, but I think let's take one step back just for clarity for everyone tuning in. Like, what does a national governing body actually do, like, for the sport and its
Mhm.
players? I think that's a good
Yeah,
way to, like.
that's a great question. What does a national governing body do?
Yeah.
So at the very basic level, a national governing body, in my opinion, exists to be the governance of the sport, so the rules and regulations of the sport. And it's pretty important that the rules and regulations are consistent across the entire country.
Mm.
And in different sports that take different formats, maybe it's the balls, the scoring, the rackets, different features like that. So for us, we have FIP as the global governing body. So we follow FIP's rules, and it's important to have a consistent method of play of competition around the world. Um, Interestingly enough, in previous years, going back decades, paddle in the USA, and in the Americas, you served and you had to stay back. In Europe, they were playing you could serve and volley. So there's been different rules in different parts of the world over the years. And so having one consistent scoring system around the world, consistent rules, that's super important. So here in the USA, first and foremost, our job is to enforce those rules, put them in play. Um, Beyond that, like we've got to be relevant as a force to grow paddle and help create exposure for the sport. So that could be in terms of media, it could be in terms of play opportunities, but we need to promote the sport as much as possible
Mm.
to help those that are paddle curious find somewhere to play paddle and then get playing at a club as soon as possible.
No, that's I mean, I didn't even realize that scoring example. When was that a thing? When you would serve and stay back? Was that
Yeah, so one of the early pioneers
Uh-huh.
in the sport for the USA is a gentleman by the name of Mike May.
Okay.
Mike May is based in Houston, Texas. He played on the first World Cup teams for the USA, was the president of USA Paddle for almost 2 decades, and Mike is a historian of paddle, amazing person, and as much as anybody has done to grow paddle in the USA. So the first USA national team actually competed internationally
Wow.
before there was even a court in the
Oh my
USA.
gosh. Wow. Okay. So this is ever even a quarter.
Yeah.
This was how many this is going we're dating back approximately
So 1994, the USA played against Canada and Mexico
Okay.
in a Tri-Nations tournament in Mexico.
Okay.
And the USA team actually organized for the court to be brought back to the USA. So Mike and the team were practicing on tennis courts. They played for the first time with walls and with glass when they were down there at the tournament. So there is a great and long history of the sport.
There might be. I need to see if there's any like media or anything around that. Are you aware of anything? I need to check that out.
I, I, Mike May will have footage of that
Oh
for
my
sure.
gosh, that's phenomenal content. That is rare. That's I mean, I was just learned there, and I mean, and you kind of answered it. Like, so, like, why does USA Paddle need to exist as a sport continues to develop? I mean, there's so many reasons, buckets. I mean, from a media to awareness to governance to making sure things are unified, universal, being followed. Like, it's I mean, it's wild. Like it. I mean, it is that crucial. And since our first
Yeah, I mean,
conversation, it opened my eyes. Go ahead.
I think it's super important that there is universal method of rules and scoring and play, and that is obviously one aspect that a federation exists for.
Yeah.
Um, the other aspect really is to get more people playing paddle at clubs. USA Paddle is never gonna manage clubs directly themselves. That's not part of what a federation's role necessarily should be.
Mhm.
It's to support the clubs that exist and give them players, create players for them. And so that's one of our big goals is get more players to
I
clubs.
love it. I love it. The mission. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. The scoring would probably being one of them. Anything else in terms of like what the federation can protect that the market, let's say, can't protect? Scoring probably obviously being one of them.
Yeah, I mean, look, we live in America. It's one of the best sporting countries in the world in terms of opportunity here and creation of new products and new things and new competitions, new tours. I think that's part of innovation is part of the culture in the USA. You know, at USA Paddle, for the longest time, we focused on the national teams. So national teams competing internationally. We still will focus on that. We have 250 athletes traveling every year to represent the Stars and Stripes.
Wow,
Um,
250.
we, yeah, 250. we worked really hard to create a nationwide circuit of competition, ranging from local tournaments, to the US Open Paddle Championships. And I think that's something that allows clubs to have play opportunities, to create awareness, connect players together. And then the third pillar of really what we're trying to do in terms of as a federation outside of governance is that awareness project, get more people playing, more people interested, things like National Paddle Month to encourage more people to play. Those are our really three big focuses.
What and how would you say, like, from the start of 2026 to where we're sitting now here, almost 8 months in, has it gone, according to plan? Like, are you pleased with kind of the progress we've had in the States, overall? And of course, there's always things that, we could be leveling up, but I mean, it's the buzz around the game is, better than anyone. It's incredible. Are we on the right track from where you sit? Today's episode is sponsored by Paddle Bryant Academy. The biggest mistake I see beginner paddle players make isn't a technical one. It's trying to improve everything at once. That's why I created Paddle Bryant Academy, to give beginner players a simple roadmap that builds clarity, confidence, and a game they can trust under pressure. Inside, you'll find coaching, community, and a step-by-step plan designed to help you improve faster while enjoying the journey along the way. If you're a beginner looking for a clear path to improve, comment beginner. We'll set up a quick one-on-one conversation so I can learn more about your game, understand your goals, and help point you in the right direction. Now let's get back to the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, the buzz around paddle is fantastic. Obviously, we've talked about it. People love playing paddle. There's a lot of new clubs opening. Every week I hear of a new club, coming online. People are, discovering paddle for the first time, becoming Pied Pipers, evangelists for the game, super excited. You know, for me, it's literally wake up at 4 a.m. and do whatever I can to grow the sport and get more people playing. And, sometimes that's the nitty gritty of, managing travel logistics for the national team, helping our athletes to get from A to B to compete. Sometimes it's more looking ahead, big picture things to put things on the calendar for the future. It's meeting with our clubs. So there's, honestly, it feels like there's not enough time in the day because but it's exciting because there's so much going on. But I'm someone that wants to make sure we put the right structure in place so that we can sustain the growth and be supportive of the growth. I've heard many, many years of tales from, different sporting federations inside the USA, outside the USA, where the federation is not seen as a force for positivity and not helpful for the sport. And I want to make sure that, I'm doing what I can to be a force of positivity to help the sport. And the trajectory is, up and to the right, which is what we want to see. Doesn't mean everything's amazing or perfect or things we can't work on. There's always things that can be done to improve, and we just got to identify them and work on them whilst also planning for the future.
Amen to that. Well, I mean, you almost just kind of like took us through, and there is no exact day, I know that, but like a sliver of what a day in the life is, of all of the kind of the things that you're kind of like focused on, and you have your team, where they're allocating their time, spending their energy. To the average player or someone who's just kind of entering the game, or their interest is being peak, with paddle, what would you say is the most important thing USA Paddle is doing today to help grow the game?
Yeah, sure. I would say for me, the most important thing is two most important
Okay.
things. The first one is find a club,
Okay.
start playing at the club.
Okay.
That's the most important pillar of the community in terms of paddle, the local club. If you have some friends that have a court, start playing the court for sure, but just start playing. Almost every club in the USA has some sort of learn to play program, intro to paddle, paddle 101, a group class that will get you started and learn. And that's so important. Along with that, educate yourself. There's plenty of great instructors in person. If you can't get to an instructor in person, there's plenty of great instructors like yourself online that have got content out there that can help educate themselves. When I was growing up, YouTube didn't exist, and so we had to read books. Now in terms of like learning, YouTube is a great resource. So, if you can't get to the club for an in-person lesson all the time, you can take advantage of resources online, again, such as yourself. Um, the second thing I would say, and this is the one selfishly for USA Paddle, is go to the website, usapaddle.org, click membership in the top right-hand corner, and we have a free player account. So I'd highly encourage you to create the free player account. Okay, why would you want to do that? Number one, so we can talk to you, we can send you emails, we can keep you updated with the information about what's happening in the paddle world.
Right.
And secondly, that will help you get a world paddle rating. So it's an algorithm-based number that'll help you track your progress over time. To me, that is the second most important thing to do in your paddle journey after playing and learning.
We'll link that below. Like, step one, go to the website, open a profile. Yeah, we'll put that. We'll clip that and get that down below. Like, how about community wise? Like, could folks, be a part of a community in some way with USA Paddle, like virtually, or be in some sort of, whether it's Discord or WhatsApp, just to kind of be in the loop with what the latest and greatest, or is that like in the works?
Yeah,
Anything like that exist?
that's a Yeah, that's a great it's a great thought and a great question, Brian. So our primary communication method right now is on
Okay.
Instagram. We've our following is growing on Instagram, but having a USA Paddle Discord is a fantastic idea. I'm going to write that down and work on that as a way to get the community connected. Um, you know, one of the great things about paddle, of course, is the local
Yep.
community, and that's where as an athlete, you got to find yourself in your community, and that's where many paddle clubs have great groups. And for me, I want paddle players in the USA. They don't have to be USA paddle players necessarily. I just want more people playing, and the best place for that is a local club. Find a community, a local club. There's a fantastic community of tournament level players who are playing in Division One, Two, Three, Four, Five at tournaments, and travel in their city or in their state around the country to the tournaments, and that's a great community as well. But
And I think I agree. I think there's a reason you listen first, get to a club and play. Um, I think that it by far is, agreed, the most important, because in today's era, there's endless content. There's endless, it's just it's everywhere, and you can almost get lost in it and drown, and not almost feel like, you almost feel like I know less because of just drowning in information with no kind of like next step. Um, and I think the best way is, to your point, get to a club and get plugged in and be there consistently. And if they have a coach, amazing. I know, that's the next step and part of, the growing, and what you guys are focused on, and helping with the awareness, and getting more coaches. But to start, I think just getting on the court and hitting the ball will do more for you than any coaching online ever will, because you just get awareness and feel of the wall, especially if you're coming from tennis. Just exposure, I think, could go so far. You know,
yeah,
for what that's worth.
yeah.
Uh,
I mean, for me, it's yeah. I love to use the word athlete because that's who we are. That's who our players are. It doesn't matter what age you are, what ability you are. It's like, how do I become a paddle athlete? You just play paddle and you are a paddle athlete. That's it. You don't need some fancy certificate or some special medal to be a paddle athlete. Once you play, you're a paddle athlete. So just get on the court and play. We know how easy the sport is to get started. It's an underhand serve. It's super straightforward. A little bit of technique from some friends or someone at the club, one of those learn to play paddle classes will get someone started. And then from there, you can level up as you go along. And, I think that's why the local communities, the local clubs are amazing to get you started and connect and play.
I love it. It's so true. Easy to pick up, hard to master. Um,
Oh, yeah.
as we know all too well. But yes, and I forgot where I heard it from, but it always stuck with me that if it's your first time playing, there will at least be one shot that is so satisfying that'll make you want to come back. And I think it's true,
I mean,
you know.
the one of the best things about paddle is when you get that ball right there at the net and you're about to smash it and you're feeling so good and then you hit it and you realize you don't have enough power,
Oh,
for the por cuatro
yep.
and it comes back and then it gets smashed right back at you, and
Right
just
in
the
front of you.
the I can feel the cogs in my brain turning of like, yes, no, yeah, and then, and I've been fortunate. I've been on the court with some really good players before, and I had this moment. I put up a lob, and the lob was too short, and I was like, okay, step back. No, I got to get it off the wall. I'm running forward,
Mhm.
and then as he's hitting the ball, I'm like, no,
You just cover,
because
safety.
it was just gonna crush me.
Yeah,
And
no.
it's like, yeah,
Oh, no.
good fun.
It's I haven't been on the court in a minute, and you just sharing that example got me giddy, because
Yeah.
it's the thrill that you and I both can understand from our tennis backgrounds that tennis it doesn't even provide that type of thrill, Um, it's what's so
I
special
mean,
about
you said
paddle.
it best, Brian. Easy to learn, hard to master. And whether you're a former tennis player, current tennis player, pickleball player, playing other sports, I think never been an athlete before. It's easy to learn, hard to master. Whatever mastery is for you, whatever that level is, it's not a game that discriminates. Oh, I'm good. I can do this. I'm bad. It's
No.
open for everybody to enjoy, and truly is the world's most social sport, and that makes it even more fun.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, and it's right before we turned the cameras on, I was scrolling and I saw he was with the paddle school because I think the paddle school is in LA right now doing some events or clinics and uh he's actually an investor in one of the clubs that will be opening here soon. He's known as Mr. Porquatro, I think on Instagram. He was a former do you know what I'm talking about?
I do. Trey Boston.
Trey Boston. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, no, it just that came to mind. I don't know why, but a world-class athlete, played for, I think, Carolina, Panthers, and then you see him on a paddle court, and it's just like, it's the most humbling thing, and mastery, even for
Mhm.
world-class professional athletes, I think he'd probably be the first to say, how difficult it is once you start playing,
Yeah.
you know?
I think the celebrity influence in paddle is fantastic and
Yeah.
aspirational and great for the sport. Trey Boston is such an amazing ambassador for the sport.
Oh, yeah.
Even if you don't follow the NFL closely, to be able to walk up the Trey at a tournament, say hello, take a photo, he's so welcoming.
Yeah.
Um, you see Ronaldo, Messi, football players playing, and the sport breaks down barriers. These athletes, they want to improve. We want to improve. You can connect. There's once you're on the court with people, it's just such a great way to connect and brings people together, and everyone's smiling.
Yeah.
You're happy to be on the court, and so that part of it is fantastic. I run a fair bit, and people aren't smiling when they're running. People are grimacing in pain when they're
Yes.
running.
Pretty common.
Paddle. We're getting exercise, but we're smiling.
No, it instantly, I did an episode on it, God, not long ago where, I was inspired because I was playing with my former Vandy teammates. It's like a couple months ago, June, World Cup was on, and, we instantly got there. It's right after the workday, and we're all you could just like uptight, just stressed from the workday. Within 5 minutes, like the hair's down, we're laughing, back to the college days, cracking jokes. Within 5 that's what it does. It instantly usually I need like a cerveza to kinda get the edge off, but paddle does it instantly for you, So that's, to your point. It's special. Um, but let's change gears here for a second and continue talking about the growth here in the US, and we've touched on, a few of the things, but for it to truly, truly work here and to continue to be in the growth trajectory that it is, what needs to happen outside of what we already said, more clubs. People have to be playing sure as clubs. What else in your mind needs to
Yeah.
happen?
So for me, the three most important things for the growth of paddle in the USA is courts, clubs, and coaches. And those things go closely together: courts, clubs, and coaches. Obviously, we need courts for people to play on.
Yep.
We need clubs to have the courts, and we need coaches to encourage more people to play and be the Pied Piper, the ambassador, the evangelist for that club to get people playing.
Totally.
Um, there's some structural challenges with that, which USA Paddle is trying to work hard to overcome them. In terms of clubs, we want to support clubs by trying to create awareness to get people to their club. Courts, we work with court manufacturers to try and create standards, provide information for clubs, encourage those court manufacturers that are doing a great job to invest in the market more. You mentioned kind of a typical day for me a little bit earlier. You know, this morning, I was on the phone at 5 a.m. with a manufacturer talking about how they can grow the sport, get more people playing the sport, get more courts installed. So I think the
Wow.
manufacturers are a huge, important part of the ecosystem to get more courts in here. And then coaches. We need more coaches. We need outside expertise from other countries to be able to come into the USA to teach our players, to teach our coaches. We need education inside the USA to be invested into coaches that are already in the USA to help them level up and learn more. And we have so many passionate tennis coaches who want to become paddle coaches. There's new skills to be learned, a lot of information to process. So, courts, clubs, and coaches is what we need to grow. It's not going to be easy though. There's
No.
some challenges ahead in terms of installation. Cost to play is a big barrier right now.
Yep.
And so, in the future, I think there's going to continue to be growth, but it's going to be the operators that are doing it in a smart manner. We talk about the cost of installation. That is a barrier right now. It's not inexpensive compared to say pickleball to put courts in.
Mhm.
But even more important for an operator is what they're paying on a monthly basis, what their lease is. If they're under a big lease and they can't make that payment without a lot of stress, then they're not going to be able to stick around for a long time. So, and what I would say to an operator or potential operator investor is, you know, maybe take a little bit longer than what you need to make sure that you get the right lease under your feet.
That's
You
great
know,
advice.
you might need to pay a little bit more for the core. You might need to pay a little bit more for the installation. But get that product right.
Yeah.
But the lease is going to make or break you. And there's some amazing clubs in the USA with some very creative leasing structures. Some revenue shares, some profit shares, some partnerships. Collaborations with existing country clubs, collaborations with hotels. We need to be creative to get more courts into the USA to allow those clubs to operate and the coaches to get on them. So,
That's
yeah.
great advice. What you just shared. That wow. I mean, that's uh, you know, a handful of various ideas right there. How about colleges and universities? I mean, I know that with previous guests, that's brought up, you know, consistently. Is USA Paddle involved in anything like that, or is that hands off with that? That it just came to mind. So, what does that look like for you
So
guys?
the dream of college sport, yeah, the dream of college sport is burns bright all over the world.
Sure.
People want to come to the USA for university.
Yep.
Obviously, the NIL market, university sports is changing a lot. The landscape for college tennis is changing a lot. College squash has a very interesting model where collegiate squash is governed outside of the NCAA. So there's not related to NCAA, and that's been a very successful model for them. You know, right now USA Paddle's involvement in collegiate paddle is we have a free membership for college paddle clubs
Okay.
that are forming. We provide information, resources, connect them with other paddle clubs around the country. Primarily it's a club or social sport right now, which I think is fantastic. That's the growth of the game. In the future, do we see a point where certain universities have academies attached to them or competitive teams attached to them, attracting players from outside the country? That may be in the future. We're a long way from that right now. We need to build that infrastructure. We need to get more juniors playing so that paddle in college is kind of an aspirational goal for them. And there's other organizations out there that we are supportive of that are also, working and growing the college paddle space, and we want all of them to be successful as well because together, we're gonna work together to grow the sport. It cannot be you know, we cannot fight over the paddle market when it's the size of a grape. We need to grow it to a watermelon, and then there's gonna be enough for everybody.
Yeah, well said there. As you were sharing that, I was thinking, like, do you think because it's it's like most sports, it's not here, okay, originating here in the US. This game has been around for a while. It's mature in many other markets, and it's gonna, you know, really, it's the fastest growing because of the potential. I think a large part because of the potential here in the US. Do you think we need to create our own identity as within paddle here relative to what it is, in Spain and South America, or should we uh keep it as is? How do you see that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I truly think that in the USA, we are creating our own
Okay.
identity. Both USA Paddle and paddle clubs in the USA that are operating. Every club has its own identity, what it stands for, the community that it's building. And I think they make the best decision at the club level, and we want to be super supportive of that. Some clubs focus on, a fun, upbeat atmosphere, like a party atmosphere with watch parties for different sports. And, others are maybe more serious about, playing a lot, and every club has its own identity. So I think that, all these clubs are growing in their local identity in the USA. I think for USA Paddle, one of the aspects we've really been focused on is our national circuit, and I'm really proud of our circuit. We went from, you know, piece of paper, Venmo, PayPal, kind of Excel and WhatsApp as the tools, 4 years ago. And now we have a fully functioning circuit, 250 tournaments around the country, US Open Paddle Championships. We have top 100 FIP players playing on the same tournament, same court as Division 4, Division 5 amateur athletes like myself. And so I think the identity of the USA Paddle circuit is so strong right now. It's in no small part to the amazing board and committee that we've had at USA Paddle in the past, years, and the clubs that are running these great tournaments. And we're seeing we've had top 30 FIP players come and play in our tournaments and not win the tournament because the talent level here is magnificent. So I think as an identity, are we trying to grow it in the Spanish identity, the Argentine identity? I think we're doing it uniquely in our own identity, what paddle in the USA is. And it's this combination of Latin culture, American culture coming together to form, our USA paddle culture.
Fires me up. That fires me up, which, I mean, and, I think we haven't even come close to seeing the fruit of everything that you just shared there. It's just like it's just brewing, the foundation is being set for it to blossom into it already is showing glimpses of its own identity to what you just shared, and it will only continue to evolve, I think, as we get more courts, coaches, clubs. Did I get that right?
Clubs.
Yes.
That's right.
Okay, so what
Yeah.
here's kinda like a fun question. If a US player is going to be competing to overtake Coelho's spot 15 years from now, number 1 in the world, what are we gonna have to do to make that happen? Like, or do we already have it? What
Good
like
question.
academies? Just play 24/7? What does that look like? What do you think we have to do?
Uh, the future of paddle globally may already be playing under the USA flag. So Ornella Beltramino, number one in the world, under 14 juniors. If we're talking about the future of the game, she's got a long way to adulthood and a lot of hurdles and opportunities and challenge in life. But Ornella, number one in the world in U14 right now. So she could be the future. Um, we have a great group of players right now at the absolute level that's known as the top level of the USA national team. We're competing in the FIP World Cup on the men's and the women's side. Both squads just defeated Mexico, the home of paddle, Mexico, and the USA beat both
Wow.
teams. So our teams, men and women, amazing athletes, and heading to the FIP World Cup in Qatar later this year. Only the top 16 countries in the world compete. So, last edition 2 years ago, we competed, eventually finishing 13th on the men's side, 15th on the women's side. And, we're looking for a top 12 placing. So, we're getting there in terms of nations, but obviously Argentina and Spain, the top of the top of the top of the top. So how do we get there? We need children right now that are 4, 5, and 6 to start playing paddle. And I get videos from passionate parents. My son's playing paddle. He's 5 years old. What should he do? I'm like, just keep
Yeah,
playing, just have fun and just keep playing. It's a long journey,
exactly.
but we need those 4, 5, and 6 year olds to grow and to play. Um, I have a lot of clubs ask me, I want to set up an academy. I said, that's great, but maybe focus first on the learn to play program. Get as many kids as playing as possible, get as many children playing as possible. And those that are, consistently playing and want to play more, and then they'll get coaching, they'll improve. There'll always be adults to play against. We have many children, U12, U14, U16,
Yep.
playing on the USA paddle circuit right now. So there's always going to be enough competition for them to grow. And over time, some amazing world-class academies will, populate in the USA,
Overall,
begin in the USA, and grow the game. But I think we need a wide base of players at the
yep,
bottom so that the ones that filter up to the top, we have a bigger pool of players to get
no
there.
doubt about it. And I think, like, we can't think it we can't put our tennis hat on when we think about doing it for paddle because it is so different and it's, doubles versus singles. It's a different game. We like to think like, okay, rackets, but it is so wildly different when it comes to probably developing someone from the ground up, a child from 5 years old. I almost arguably think it's like the physicality is I think it's only to continue to get more physical. Would you agree? The game, I think that's probably fair to say, but it's not physical like tennis. It's still physical. I don't want to be. I mean, I might eat my words there for saying that, but I mean, it's singles tennis. Like, come on, like we're not talking like Rafa level. Like that's another world. Uh, it's just it's doubles. Maybe like a partner. That partnership aspect from a young age is gonna be like really, really developing that. And growing the awareness and showing the importance of that, I think needs to be started at a young age. I don't know. It's time will tell.
Yeah, I think there's so many unique and amazing aspects of paddle that make it, yeah, it's a racket and a ball and a court, but similarities kind of stop there in many ways. You different game, different angles, relationship with the partner, connection with the partner, so many different things. So I think, we need to focus on what makes paddle amazing and, celebrate those aspects of it and grow those aspects of it and keep that part of the sport going.
100, very well said. Well, before we take this home here, my friend, like 20 years in the industry, all sorts of racket sports, and where you sit today, like has success to you changed in any way? Like from 20 years ago to sitting here now on Wednesday, 2026 in August, whatever day we're on. What does that look
Yeah.
like for you?
Um, I mean, originally coaching racket sports was just a way to get me to the USA and create an opportunity for me to live an amazing life. And that has happened. Racket sports has given me so much. I've met my wife, had my family with me, traveled around the country, visited so many amazing states and cities, and traveled internationally for the sports. And so now the focus is on what can I do to help the entire USA in terms of paddle. And I have, sticky notes on my desk to remind me that it's about, the entire growing the sport for all of USA. And if I have a bad day, something goes wrong, maybe a player is upset about the draw or the rules and regulations or something. And, you know, players that are inherently looking out for the best interests of themselves, whether they're an amateur or professional. And I need to focus on what's best for all of the USA, not just USA Paddle, but all of the USA. And so for me, that's the thing I'm looking to grow. I'm excited about National Paddle Month coming up. It's the first time ever to have National Paddle Month. And so to be part of the creation of that and to build on the legacy of past folks that have spent many hours working and volunteering for USA Paddle is a privilege.
It's so beautifully said, man. I actually I saw earlier you have a beautiful family. I saw your two kiddos earlier when I was before we turned the cameras on again when I saw that biz paddle with your conversation with Rosa. I saw it so like that I mean, yeah, you met your wife through I mean, it has truly given you it sounds like so much. And but you're already giving back tenfold of what it has provided you in the position that you're in. I don't envy it. I could, I'm sure, I mean, talk about mental toughness for the game. You need the amount of mental toughness and fortitude and resilience you need for where you sit to be able to just block out noise that I'm sure you get all the time and to remain cool, calm, and collected. How we have to be on the court. Like you're all of those traits that probably, um, were able to get from your years playing, you're using even more now in your position, which is, I'm sure
Yeah.
each day is throwing something at you that you never really expected. But it's those sticky notes
Yeah.
staying true to like, why am I doing this? I'm a
I mean,
sticky note guy too. So
yeah.
that really that hit when you said that. Luckily it's just me at home. If I had someone else, they'd probably be throwing that away. So, um,
Yeah.
that's we need to see it every single day, you know? It's important.
I mean, as an athlete, and I think in business, you've got to be a little bit like a goldfish. You've got to, recognize the point that just happened, the mistake you made, the great win, the great loss, whatever it is, and process it, and then move on. Because you can't dwell on the past. You've got to move on quickly. And for me, racket sports have given me so much. From moving to the USA, and New Zealand's a great country. I can't, make out like I struggled growing up and had to escape a country like many people have had to. But my experience of moving to the USA and what I was able to experience through racket sports and through tennis and now paddle, that's what really helps me, inspires me to help others. I see young coaches want to come to the USA and I want to help them. I want to help them find a job. I see players in the journey. I want to help them. And so being able to kind of give back in that way to help from what I had to help the next generation is a big part of it.
Well, you have a phenomenal story. I mean, just like the New Zealand to the how racket sports brought you to the States and the impact that you've had here and that you'll continue to have, like, the story's not even done yet, and, it's, uh, it's inspiring. Yeah, that kinda leads me to how I love to just always wrap these episodes up is, how do you wanna be remembered when it's all said and done? And not to be morbid in any way, it's just like it's I love the question, however you wanna answer it.
Personally, I'd like to be remembered as a world-class husband, father, parent, brother. Um, Professionally, I'd like to be recognized and remembered as someone that did everything the right way, that made the right decisions, not selfish decisions for me, but the right decisions for the sport. And if you look through sports governance at a federation level, whether it's nationally or internationally, there is many, many tales of bad governance, of conflicting interests. And I want to be remembered as someone that did the right thing for USA Paddle and did the right thing for the sport because the sport deserves that. We deserve as players and clubs, coaches, we deserve the right thing to be done. And whenever my time is finished in paddle and with USA Paddle, and I hope that's many, many years from now,
Totally,
I want to
totally.
be remembered as someone that did the right thing.
Well, they have the right guy steering the ship. I could say from what you just shared, and I look forward to many more conversations, actually meeting in person, hopefully sooner rather than later. Admire the work that you're doing, and I know it's just we're only in the first few innings, of hopefully where this is gonna go,
Yeah, I
so
mean, yeah, Austin's a great paddle city. Would love to come visit you, play paddle in Austin, Bryant, and hang out. And yeah, we are in the early innings of paddle in the USA.
it's so early. It's so early. But no, that and on the personal side, that's so admirable. Like that's ultimately what it's all about and the most important thing. So I've taken a lot of notes, but that's probably my most important one, because I like to say we meet because of paddle, but it doesn't end there, and that because it doesn't end there because of the depth that the game allows us to go is far more important than whether we won or lost on the court, And so thank you for what you're doing. No, go ahead. And-
So paddle is the world's most social sport.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why we love it. Brings people together. It's fun. And so this conversation has been great, Brian. I really appreciate you, everything that you're doing to create awareness about paddle, to support paddle players, around the USA and around the world, to get more people playing paddle, to encourage them to get out on the court, to play, to help. We need more people like this in the industry to help the entire ecosystem grow, to get more players, to those clubs, to those courts, and to those
They're
coaches.
the coaches, the C trifecta, CCC.
That's
That's,
it. Yeah.
no, where that's, one day at a time. If the passion's there, the heart's there, I don't think, you know, uh, it'll be hard to stop the train, The speed bumps will be there, we know that, but, it, when it's a force to be reckoned with, and if it's meant to play out, like, nothing's gonna stop it. That's kinda how I see it, and the right people are in place, getting back to the very beginning, the right people, like, it starts there, So, it's, I could continue on. We could go on for many more hours, my friend, but we'll stop here, and I know it's a good reason to have round 2 in the near future. When there's the next milestone or something is hit, for the game here in the US, we'll hopefully we'll do it when you're in Austin. How about that? To get to Austin, and you'll actually be here in the studio. But to those who stayed until the end, you're the real ones. Thank you for being here. We will link Scott's info and USA Paddle's info below so you can get plugged in. An amazing organization, and really the mission is to grow this beautiful game, as Scott shared throughout the episode. So until next time, protect your inner peace like your life depends upon it, and we'll see you next week.